Ladies and gentlemen of UK Estate and Letting Agency, we're back again with our very good friend Sanjay Gandhi. On Friday, he will be going under the knife in London to have a very extensive surgery by a gentleman called Nick Thomas, who is the boss man, president of the British School-Based Society. He is big in the games when it comes to chordomas, and he is Sanjay's chosen surgeon. We'll come to Nick in a second. Sanjay, why did you choose Nick?
Well, I think first of all, Chris, I need to explain that I actually saw 5 neurosurgeons over a matter of 8 weeks. And as I said in my previous video, 12, 15 weeks ago, I'd never heard of any of this. And this has been a massive, steep learning curve. And as I mentioned, I've been lucky that I've had private medical with Bupa, which has allowed me to go around the country and interview and meet these neurosurgeons and understand a bit more about them. And it's a bit like, us choosing valuers when we're selling houses. And you have that meeting and you go with the person you believe can do the best job, have the best outcome for you. So for me, I met some amazing neurosurgeons all across the country. And Mr. Nick Thomas here, I had to wait 4 weeks to actually meet him because he was actually on holiday. And obviously my issue during July and August is the peak time of summer holidays. Now these guys are like us working hundreds of hours. They need a recharge and they need to really get their batteries sorted. So the reason I chose Mr. Nick Thomas was when we met him only a week or so ago, what was interesting is he'd already learnt about the surgeons I'd already met, and he actually asked me a simple question: have these people actually explained your MRI scan? And obviously I was there with Anita, and we just sort of thought, well, they have, in a fashion. And what Mr. Thomas did here was he actually really went down the mine and explained the MRI scan in so much detail, taking into question what others had told us and actually explained what his objectives were. And I think for me personally, that was really important because, I'm analytical. I do want to know things. That's why I set out on this exercise to find the best person. So when you explained everything and explained it in layman's terms, because again, no disrespect, some of these guys can talk a lot of jargon, just like we do in our industry. So I really like that. And what impressed me more about Mr. Nick Thomas here was his experience, okay? And that's what I've been looking for from day one. And I think back with respect, the man that actually flew the plane and landed on the Hudson River, he had to have experience to save those lives. And for me, this is the most important decision of my life. This isn't just a transaction, and I need to get it right. And after I met him, what was interesting is Mr. Thomas didn't know this. There were 2 other neurosurgeons already leading the race. If you spoke to Newt, if she was here, she already had it done and dusted. She already chose her neurosurgeon. And like a flick of a switch, after meeting Mr. Thomas, we didn't say anything. On the way back, she said, Mr. Thomas is my man. And it's so funny because I'd already decided that. And ultimately, whether you like it or not, it was going to be my decision. And we, in an instant, both agreed. And that said something about Mr. Thomas. And since then, when we've dissected things, what's been amazing, Chris, is we only met him on the 17th of August, all right? Since then, it's literally less than 2 weeks or so. I'm having my op on Friday this week. The rest of the guys were telling me about operating in October. They couldn't really promise yet because of other things and all this kind of stuff. this guy had been amazing, because what you also don't know in the story is I went to King's Cross on Wednesday last week to King's College Hospital like a mystery shopper, unannounced. Mr. Thomas didn't know, nobody knew. Me and Anita went, took nothing to stay or nothing. We were coming back that night. And the story is amazing how we went there, we got shown around by a guy who was like meet and greet at Asda or whatever, showed us around the hospital. We met Amanda, who's the oncologist nurse that is part of Mr. Thomas's team. She'd not even heard of me. Mr. Thomas didn't know I was doing this, but I wanted to get to the bottom of, have I got the right people here? All right, and I just want to say that part of this question of why I chose Mr. Thomas, that day was for me the catalyst of confirming everything. And I've not had a real chance to speak to Mr. Thomas about this yet.
Well, boys and girls, I think we can distill that down into three things. Firstly was the questions that Mr. Thomas asked. And I think at the end of the day, credibility comes from the questions you ask, not the statements you make. So again, I think we can learn a lot from that. It also comes from experience. But again, there's people out there that haven't got the experience. But again, if they've asked the right questions, again, that comes through from experience. And also the experience that you had when you went round the hospital, that you were made to feel welcome. Well, let's go to the main man himself. Nick, thanks for joining us today. How does it make you feel when someone speaks about those things? Because I'm sure, Sanjay is very much a unique person. He's a pain in the backside, but we still love him to bits. Are there many people that will go to the extent that he has gone searching for a surgeon?
No, Sanjay's done some very good research. There's no doubt about that. And he's asked all the right questions to a number of surgical teams. And frankly speaking, it's a privilege to be asked to do the operation. And I don't think any of the surgical teams have underestimated the task. This is a complex region to be dealing with. It's a difficult tumor to manage. You certainly need the experience to deal with these tumors in terms of the workup, the operation, the post-operative management. And I think one of the points that Sanjay has made, having met our clinical nurse specialist and other people within the hospital, is that I'm just one part of a big team, and we're really proud to be working in a big team. This is a sort of operation that requires another very experienced surgical colleague who I will have with me as another neurosurgeon. It involves a lot of care from clinical specialists, other people working within the team, my juniors, who will care for Sanjay along with myself after the operation, making sure that we minimize the risk of any post-operative complications. So it's a huge team, and there is a lot of attention paid to Sanjay and others with a similar condition because it's frightening. It's an unpleasant diagnosis. It's anxiety-inducing. And patients need to be given the very clear facts. And essentially what I did during that consultation was have a chat with Sanjay and his wife, and we made it very clear as to exactly what was going on, what we were planning during the operation, what the potential issues might be.
Because it's not cut and dry, is it?
No. And there are some subtleties, some variations in the theme in terms of what the operation involved, and perhaps there were some of those aspects which I addressed, and he found those more appealing than some of the other suggestions. But broadly speaking, the surgeons are all singing off the same hymn sheet in terms of the approach, broadly speaking.
I mean, Nick, if you don't mind me asking, Sanjay is an annoying swine, and he can talk for England. Subject to the operation going okay, but how long is the operation going to be? How many people are going to be involved in the operation, and what's the road to recovery thereafter?
So the operation is likely to take something in the order of about 6 hours, I would have thought, around about that sort of period of time. And we drill the bone at the base of the skull through a corridor between the two carotid arteries. So we have to essentially skeletonize those vessels with a drill. So this is hairy stuff. We have to be nice and slow. We have to pick away very, very carefully to make sure we don't damage those vessels. And of course, you don't need to be a neurosurgeon to know that if one of your carotids gets damaged, there can be significant consequences. We then have to open the covering of the brain because there is tumor that's gone through that. And that's one of the reasons why Sanjay is now experiencing the problems, which have come on relatively suddenly, certainly since the last time I saw him in outpatients, with his speech. And we have to take away that tumor from the brainstem, and there are important vessels around and about. So it's very, very delicate manipulation of the tumor and the surrounding structures. The final part, but a very important part of the operation, is to repair that covering, because if brain fluid comes out down the nose, then bugs can get in and you can get a meningitis. And there, again, are different ways of doing that. And we've got to be extraordinarily careful at making sure that we get a good repair, a good seal. We don't want to see brain fluid coming out afterwards. Occasionally, patients have to go back in for a second operation to repair that, which is essentially a plumbing operation. We don't have to do anything in terms of the tumor anymore. But this is a big deal. This is demanding work, and one's got to get it right. And getting it right the first time is the best time to get it right.
Why do you enjoy the job? What do you enjoy about the job?
Well, neurosurgery comes with great highs and great lows. The lows are very low, and the highs are immensely rewarding. We go into medicine to look after and care for patients. And when we go into neurosurgery, we're generally looking after more unwell patients. And in skull-based neurosurgery, we're in a little subspecialty within neurosurgery where we've got some really unwell patients with high-risk surgery. But the reward comes from getting good outcomes. The reward comes from working in an extraordinarily cohesive team. It's not just me, it's a whole team effort.
I believe this is being done on the NHS, isn't it, Sanjay? Yeah. So,
Sanjay, yes.
Which is absolutely wonderful, isn't it?
The thing is, Chris, I met Mr. Thomas at Harley Street as a private practice, and this was the other thing, that, a bit like a state agency, is it about somebody who's commission breath, or is it somebody who really is aligned with you and cares about the outcomes? And this is another massive factor in why I chose Mr. Thomas, because I actually went to see him in a private consultancy basis. That he made it very clear that he was more than happy to actually use his team at King's College London Hospital and do it on the NHS, which I just found it a bit amazing and a bit strange that here's a guy who could make a lot of money out of my situation, but money was secondary, outcome was his primary thing.
I think we could all learn a lot from that instead of chasing the dollars, you chase the service and you look after whatever your mission is in life. Nick, it's obvious that you love your job, and I wish you absolutely, our thoughts go out to you and Sanjay. You're in safe hands, Nick. I've read his CV. It's very impressive. Got more letters after his name, Sanjay, than in his name, full stop. That's good to see. So you're in safe hands. Sanjay, Sanjay Fest, where we're raising loads of money for charity, will be the week afterwards, ladies and gentlemen. Tickets have now sold out to that, but I will put a link to the Bone Cancer Research Trust that you can so you can put some money in there, and if you give over £50, we'll send you a t-shirt as well. Nick, thank you for what you're going to do for Sanjay. As I said, he's a wonderful human being. The whole estate agency industry love him to bits. I know he's in safe hands, and thank you for what you're going to do. And
I just want to say one more thing, as I always do, Mr. Watkins. The other thing about Nick as well is when I read his CV, and we've not had a chance to discuss this, the one thing I also learned is he spent the last 15 years abroad in Sri Lanka doing a lot of charity work and helping and educating. And I think that, again, is a fantastic part of this surgeon who's also giving back in the world. So again, Nick, I'm not sure if you want to tell us a little bit, just for our audience, in how that worked is because, again, for me, this is a whole holistical approach of why I've chosen you.
Thank you.
But final word, what do you do for charity in Sri Lanka, Nick?
Yes, I was a senior trainee in 1996, and my professor asked me to go to Colombo in Sri Lanka to develop a link between the two hospitals, the hospital I was previously working at in London and in neurosurgical unit in Colombo. And I enjoyed it. So I kept on going back there. So I've been back there pretty much every year, apart from a couple of pandemic years. And I teach the local neurosurgeons. I operate with them. I do outpatients. And we have a link so that if the neurosurgeon there has difficult patients, I will get a call with images and give advice. I might do that on a very regular basis, monthly, if not weekly. And it's been immensely rewarding. I think it's really important to appreciate how other systems work. In so many ways, we are lucky to work in the National Health Service. We fully understand the potential issues that we have in the National Health Service. It's far from perfect, but my goodness me, you can go around to many other countries and things are an awful lot worse. So it's actually a great privilege operating in a country like Sri Lanka. They're very appreciative, and I get looked after, and I learn how to do things in a different way. And in actual fact, any opportunity in life you get to broaden your expertise and think about your work in a slightly different way, actually probably enhances your skills, enhances the way you treat patients, and it has been rewarding over the years. I've enjoyed that greatly.
I think we could all learn something from that in any profession. Nick, thank you for your time today. Sanjay, I wish you well on Friday. I know the industry will be thinking about you. I know you won't be able to appear at Sanjfest on the 6th, but trust me, we'll all be wearing those awful orange T-shirts that make us look like we've come out of prison. But we'll be thinking about you. We'll be thinking about you and wishing you well on your recovery. Nick, thanks for what you're going to do, but more importantly, thank you. And hopefully you can make a donation to the charity. And those that have already signed up for Sanjfest, then please, we look forward to seeing you on the 6th. Thanks for your time today. See everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, Sanjay.
Bye.
Right, there you go, boys and girls. So anything you want to say, Sanjay, before you leave him in peace? Remember, he's a busy man and you can talk for England.
We're fine. I just want to say a massive thank you, pre-op, because as I say, it's pulled everything out of the bag, and you've really made our week so far, because as I say, since I met you, it's got worse and more for me.
Yeah.
My wife that's more concerned than I am. I mean, I'm lucky it's not really painful, but it's getting a bit, annoying. But these are symptoms.
Okay, and Nick, just one final note: if you could get the match scores for Burnley versus Tottenham on Saturday, he would be much appreciated because he's a Spurs fan, unfortunately. And on that note, let's all go. All right, thanks, guys.
Right, Nick, thanks a lot. Yeah,
yes, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.